What I wish I knew before starting Japanese minimalism: 3 truths. Have you ever wondered why Japanese homes feel so peaceful and calm, even though Japan is one of the most crowded countries in the world? What if we told you the secret isn't just about having less stuff, but understanding a completely different way of thinking? We're so excited you're here today because we're diving into something that's been absolutely life-changing for us and millions of people around the world. We're talking about Japanese minimalism, but not the way you might think you know it. You see, when most people hear about minimalism, they picture those stark white Instagram rooms with nothing but a single plant and a meditation cushion. But here's the thing, that's not really what Japanese minimalism is about at all. We learned this the hard way after spending months trying to copy what we saw online, only to feel more stressed and disconnected than ever before. Today, we want to share with you the 7 truths about Japanese minimalism that we wish someone had told us from the very beginning. These aren't just tips about organizing your closet or buying fewer things. These are deeper insights that come from actually understanding how Japanese culture approaches life, space, and what it means to live well. Over the next parts of this series, we're going to walk through each of these truths together. We promise you, by the end, you'll have a completely different understanding of what minimalism can actually do for your life. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's start this journey together. Truth 1. It's not about empty spaces, it's about intentional spaces. Let's start with probably the biggest misunderstanding about Japanese minimalism. When we first started learning about it, we thought the goal was to have as few things as possible. We literally went through our apartment and got rid of almost everything, thinking that emptiness was the point. We couldn't have been more wrong. Japanese minimalism isn't about creating empty spaces, it's about creating intentional spaces. There's a huge difference, and understanding this difference changed everything for us. In Japanese culture, there's a concept called ma, which roughly translates to the meaningful use of space. It's not about having nothing in a room, it's about making sure that everything in a room has a purpose and contributes to the overall feeling you want to create. Think about a traditional Japanese tea room. Yes, it might look simple compared to a typical Western living room, but every single element is there for a reason. The placement of the tatami mats, the height of the table, the way light enters through the windows, even the small decorative scroll hanging in the alcove. Everything works together to create a specific atmosphere of calm and focus. This is so different from how we often approach decorating in Western cultures, where we might fill a room with things we like without really thinking about how they all work together. We learned that Japanese minimalism asks us to be much more thoughtful about our choices. When we started applying this principle to our own home, everything changed. Instead of having empty rooms that felt cold and unwelcoming, we began to create spaces where every item had been carefully chosen for both its function and its ability to contribute to the mood we wanted to create. For example, in our living room, we kept our comfortable couch because it serves the important function of bringing us together to relax and talk. We kept our bookshelf because books are something we genuinely use and enjoy. But we got rid of the decorative items that were just taking up space without adding any real value to our daily lives. The result wasn't an empty room, it was a room where we could actually breathe and think clearly. Every time we walked into it, we felt calmer and more focused because there wasn't visual clutter competing for our attention. This principle extends beyond just physical objects too. Japanese minimalism also applies to how we use our time and energy. Just like we can clutter our spaces with unnecessary things, we can clutter our schedules with activities that don't really serve us. Truth number 2. Quality over quantity isn't just a saying, it's a way of life. The second truth that completely shifted our perspective was understanding that Japanese minimalism takes the concept of quality over quantity to a level we'd never experienced before. In Western consumer culture, we're often encouraged to buy things because they're cheap or convenient, even if we know they won't last very long. We've all done it, bought the cheaper version of something knowing we'd probably have to replace it in a year or 2. Japanese culture approaches this completely differently. There's a deep respect for craftsmanship and longevity that goes back centuries. This isn't just about spending more money on expensive things. It's about understanding the true value of items that are made to last and made with care. When we started researching this, we discovered some fascinating examples. There are Japanese companies that have been making the same products for hundreds of years, passing down their techniques through generations. These aren't luxury brands marketing themselves as exclusive. These are everyday items made with extraordinary attention to detail. We read about a family-owned knife-making business in Japan that's been operating for over 400 years. Each knife is still made by hand, and customers often pass them down through generations. Compare this to how we typically think about kitchen knives in Western culture. We might buy a set from a big box store and replace them every few years when they get dull. This philosophy started influencing how we made purchasing decisions. Instead of buying 3 cheap t-shirts that would shrink and fade after a few washes, we invested in one well-made shirt that still looks great after 2 years of regular wear. The interesting thing is, this approach actually saves money in the long run. When you buy fewer things but choose items that are built to last, you end up spending less over time. Plus, you develop a much deeper appreciation for the things you do own. But here's what really surprised us. This quality-focused approach extended to experiences and relationships too. Instead of trying to maintain surface-level friendships with dozens of people, Japanese culture tends to value deeper, more meaningful connections with fewer people. Instead of rushing through activities to check them off a list, there's an emphasis on fully experiencing and appreciating each moment. We started applying this to our own lives by being more selective about how we spent our time. Instead of saying yes to every social invitation or trying to squeeze in as many activities as possible on weekends, we began choosing fewer things but really being present for them. The result was that we felt more connected to our friends, more satisfied with our experiences, and less exhausted by trying to keep up with everything. Truth number 3. Minimalism includes your digital life too. This third truth was something we completely overlooked when we first started our minimalism journey, and it almost derailed everything. We were so focused on decluttering our physical spaces that we didn't realize how much digital clutter was affecting our peace of mind. Japanese minimalism doesn't just apply to the things you can touch, it also applies to the digital world that increasingly dominates our daily lives. Think about it. How many hours a day do you spend looking at screens? How many notifications do you get? How many apps do you have on your phone that you never actually use? We realized that while we had created these beautiful, calm physical spaces in our home, our mental space was still chaotic because of our relationship with technology. We had hundreds of photos on our phones that we never looked at, dozens of apps we downloaded once and forgotten about, and email inboxes with thousands of unread messages. Japanese culture has this concept of seitan, which is about organizing and putting things in their proper place. We learned that this principle applies just as much to digital organization as it does to physical organization. The process of decluttering our digital lives was actually more challenging than decluttering our physical spaces, but it was also incredibly rewarding. We started by going through our phones and deleting apps we hadn't used in months. We unsubscribed from email lists that weren't adding value to our lives. We organized our photos and deleted the blurry ones and duplicates that were just taking up space. But the bigger change was in how we approached our daily interactions with technology. Instead of mindlessly scrolling through social media whenever we had a free moment, we started being more intentional about when and how we used our devices. We noticed that traditional Japanese homes often have designated spaces for different activities: a space for eating, a space for sleeping, a space for working. We applied this same principle to our technology use by creating boundaries around when and where we used our devices. For example, we stopped checking our phones first thing in the morning and last thing at night. We designated certain times of day for responding to emails instead of constantly checking throughout the day. We even started putting our phones in another room when we were eating dinner together. The impact was immediate and dramatic. We felt more present in our conversations, more focused when we were working, and more relaxed in the evenings. Our minds felt clearer because they weren't constantly being pulled in different directions by digital distractions. This digital minimalism also helped us appreciate the quality over quantity principle in our online lives. Instead of following hundreds of accounts on social media, we started curating our feeds to only include content that genuinely inspired or educated us. Instead of consuming endless amounts of information, we became more selective about what we chose to pay attention to. As we wrap up this first part of our series, we hope you're starting to see that Japanese minimalism is much deeper and more nuanced than just having fewer possessions. These first 3 truths, focusing on intentional rather than empty spaces, prioritizing quality in all areas of life, and extending minimalism to our digital worlds, form the foundation of everything else we'll be discussing. In our next part, we're going to explore 3 more truths that completely changed how we think about time, relationships, and personal growth within the context of Japanese minimalism. We'll talk about why patience isn't just a virtue in this lifestyle, it's actually essential for success. We'll also dive into how Japanese minimalism can transform not just your physical environment, but your mental and emotional well-being too. We're so grateful you're joining us on this journey, and we can't wait to share more with you. If you found value in what we've discussed today,